Warning, this podcast has stories of real-life events and true crime that happens every day. These stories may contain adult language and graphic or disturbing details not suitable for everyone. Listener discretion is advised.
132 in Bush, I've got him at gunpoint. Check the left phone, we're calling a full evacuation out this side. They're pulling them out.
1011, advise ready for camp.
Welcome to another episode of War Stories. I'm Tom.
And I'm Chuck.
And it is a bright and early Sunday morning as we record this in anticipation for Monday. Because we couldn't do locker room this week. Scheduling was just a bad week for scheduling, let me tell you. And since we all do this in our spare time, one day maybe we'll make enough money where we can all quit our jobs.
Oh, that'd be great. Have a fucking studio.
You go back. One day we'll make money.
Yeah, one day we'll make money.
Anyway,
That'd be great. I'd love to make money.
So this morning, Chuck and I have woken up bright and early to do this week's episode, which after a couple of guests, we've received from some videos from listeners, and there's been some things in the news that we figured we ought to talk about. So we're going to do a debrief. And our theme this week is officer-involved shootings and police powers.
Yeah.
Because there's some shootings in the news now that have
Sparked outrage.
Well, I guess the best theme for these, maybe it's not just police powers. Maybe it's officer-involved shootings with some questions attached.
I got it. If I was the news,
Yeah.
I would announce all these like this. Dangerous police officers kill civilians
Well, I mean, that's what we do.
with overwhelming amounts of
We don't
ammunition.
kill other police officers typically, although it does happen. I ever tell you that story?
Yeah. There's one just in the news.
The
The guy killed his sergeant.
on purpose?
Yeah. Well,
Where?
his sergeant was making. We should talk about that one on here.
Yeah.
Let me tease it.
Okay.
Sergeant was making sexual advances on the officer at a fucking bar, trying to rape him. Officer kills him. Yeah. And then
Well, then
calls it in.
there's the guy that slammed his own chief onto the police car.
Oh, we talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
And then the one that where I worked, I was still on the job at the time, is when they tried to arrest an officer for something he had done in his private life. That they tried to arrest him while he was on duty, and it didn't. It went like you would think. And his best friend at his own wedding had to shoot and kill him.
Shut the fuck up, dude. Oh
Not
my
kidding.
god.
Not kidding.
Yeah, we should. That's before video though, right?
What, the video of that? That's way before.
There's video?
Yeah, there's no video of that.
Yeah, there's no
But
video.
I'll paint the picture. So maybe we'll do that in our next debrief. Is blue on blue.
Yeah, we
Blue
could.
on blue pilots. There's the incident in New York. Off-duty officer. It was a guy. He was on duty because New York, a lot of the police stations are double two-story, where like the locker room and stuff is down on the bottom floor, and then the sergeant and the detectives and everything, second floor or whatever. We used to teach this. One guy had just gotten off duty, went down to the locker room to change. Suspect goes nuts upstairs. He hears the commotion, and the suspect gets a gun. And all the officers are responding to man with a gun as this cop who just changed out of his uniform into his civvies comes running up the stairs with a gun, and his partners don't recognize him because he's in his civvies, and they dump him.
Oh fuck me, dude.
Yeah. So anyway,
Wow.
that's not this week.
No, that's not this week.
That's not this week. We'll get into that one. Maybe we should have like Marco or Matt. We wanted to have Marco today, but again, scheduling. Marco's food truck had a catering gig, and now anyway, long story short, you don't care about our personal lives, do you? Yeah, you kind of do.
Probably not.
That's all right. We'll also talk about Chuck's dog trying to bankrupt him on locker room.
Oh my god, this fucking thing.
But that's not why we're here. This week we're talking about officer-involved shootings that have controversial questions surrounding them. And so, what's our first one this week, Chuck?
This first one's going to come out of Miami. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, let's do Miami.
Chicago.
Let's do Miami.
No,
Chicago's long. Let's do Miami.
Okay, let's do Miami. Totally fucked up that, but Miami comes out of Miami. Paint a picture for you. It's a man going crazy on a stoop of his house or the front porch of his house, and he's a big guy, and he has a knife, and he's not going along with the police officers there in Miami's their orders, and he's irate, he's angry, and then they try to tase him from the side while they have about 5 officers in front of him, all with lethal, and tasing doesn't work. And what happens next cost him his life.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of cops there. Is that a kid next to him?
Ooh. It's like his baby mama.
Okay, so he's standing there, he's pulling the taser darts out, he's got his hands above his head, he's pulling his shirt up. Taser, he's just cringing from it. Go. Ooh.
I shot him dead.
Okay. So let's back that up a little bit. So he's getting tased. He's on the porch, still tasing him. And then it looks like he pulls the darts out. It sounds like they give him another ride on Old Sparky. He's flailing. He comes off the porch, flailing his arm. And then I can't tell if it's multiple officers or...
There's at least 3 shooters.
Okay.
But
and let's see how many rounds. Oh, let's see. 10 rounds.
I got like 14 because there was some double fires in there from
2 there could be. I counted 10 individual, like
10 to 15 range.
10, so somewhere between 10 and 15.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm curious.
Miami,
hear the news on this.
Yeah. So City of Miami police units respond to a call about possibly high on narcotics causing a disturbance in the area of the Northwest 58th Street and 7th Court just after 2 p.m. Thursday. Cell phone video captured 5 police officers standing near the front of the house. The man is seen standing on the front porch wielding a blade. A witness who recorded the video of the incident said he noticed police cruisers in the neighborhood. I see this line of police cars. The instinct is to pull out my phone just to see what happens, he said. The video shows the blade-wielding man accompanied by a woman and a man in light blue shirt. A police officer pulled the man in the blue shirt away from the front porch. Investigators said that the armed man refused to comply with the officer's commands to drop the weapon. Shoot in the heart, the man is heard saying in the video. Moments later, an officer deployed a taser. When he stayed up, officers shocked him again. After appearing to writhe in pain, the man either lunged at the officers or stumbled toward them while appearing to wave the blade. At least one officer opened fire, striking the man several times. Oh my God, a woman is heard saying in the cell phone video, showing the man lying on the ground. According to the Miami Fire Rescue, the 40-year-old man was transported to Jackson Memorial Hospital with multiple gunshot wounds. Audio from cell phone video captured between 10 and 11 shots fired. Okay, so we were right there. Area residents Dan Davidson said he heard the gunfire. No one cares about what you said, Dan. Back at the scene, 7 News cameras captured a heavy police presence and a portion of Northwest 58th Street cordoned off with crime scene tape, as one happens to do when there's an officer-involved shooting. Urged to avoid the area. When asked whether officers had no other choice than to discharge their firearms so many times, Miami Police Captain Freddie Cruz replied, "I love that name, Freddie Cruz. That's
Freddie Cruz.
That's like a freaking straight up like Cubano, like Freddie Cruz. Reminds me of Bad Boys." They did deploy the taser, so they had non-lethal, but the weapon that they used it had no effect. So then the other officer that made the determination to fire for everyone's safety. One police officer was seen in the video appearing to fire their weapon. It's unclear whether or not the officers also opened fire. As of Friday morning, the man remains in stable condition. Shit, he lived.
Oh, wow.
Department of Law Enforcement is the lead agency in the ongoing investigation. That's all it really gives me. It doesn't say why they were there. I'm assuming.
Well, he's probably got a knife and drugged out, and they got a call about a disturbance. Would be my guess if I were to be logical. I can't see the knife in the video.
Oh, you can't? Dude, that motherfucker's like this long.
I mean, I can't really, like, it's so blurry. I can't tell what, like, if you didn't tell me that was a knife, I wouldn't see.
Still
like,
using
I
his
see
right hand.
something in his hand, but I can't tell that it's a knife if he's going. So, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, if you hadn't told, it could have been a really big pin, right? It could have been
a screwdriver.
Yeah, right. So my point is that from that video, I can't tell it's a knife, but you tell me it's a knife and I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's been so many crazy scenarios where people have seen guns that were no guns and it was a knife or it was something else because their brain already was predisposed to the call where it was the man with a gun and it ended up being changed to like a coffee mug or something and they still saw a gun. Right. It's crazy what the mind does. But
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 officers minimum that I can see. Yeah. Now, my first issue is tactically they're lined up like a firing squad. There's no L shape.
Yeah.
There's no crossfire, but they do not have a great backdrop. There's somebody on the porch with him that looks like she's either the size of a female or the size of a teenager.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Look at the copper in the back by the fire, by the pole.
Yeah,
he
with
is
arms straight out. He's not even at low ready. His arms are like he's on target. Dude,
that creates a problem of it creates a crossfire issue too because now
this guy right here. Look at
your partner's bags.
He's at full. He's not even at low ready, and so is this person. This person might be at low ready. This person's at like. Let's walk up and have a consensual chat because their hands are down at their side.
Right.
So that to me is interesting that you have varying degrees. You have 3 people that look like they're ready to dump the guy, one person who's fat, dumb, and happy, and one person who's at low ready. Nobody is a safe distance away, right? They're all too close. They're probably 10 feet off the porch.
Yeah, and as we learned in our last debrief, a man with a knife can close that distance within 21 feet within seconds,
right,
and get you.
Now, me personally, okay. So here's one of the things that I think is really cool. My local police agency, I found out, does something very different than California or than my agency. If you're suicidal with a knife or whatever, they don't go. They do not go.
No, not even if there's like other victims around.
Now, if you are threatening to harm somebody else with a knife, they go. But just a straight vanilla suicidal subject, they do not go. Because chances are, if you show up to a suicidal subject, they're going to put you in a situation where you have to kill them. And then it's suicide by cop. Yeah. So rather than go out and like, if you're going to kill yourself, their philosophy is you're going to do it on your own. We're not going to help. Which, it's kind of a cool policy for one of my.
It makes sense.
Yeah, I would have loved to have been able to say, well, if he's just suicidal, we're not coming. So whereas California has, 5150 Welfare and Institutions Code, 3-day, hold. You can snatch somebody up and then lock them up for 3 days if they're suicidal. All that.
Right.
I think Monday morning quarterbacking, first of all, I wouldn't have had, if I was the sergeant on scene, I would not have had everybody lined up like a firing squad.
Nope.
I would have put somebody on the back, put 2 people to one side in an L shape, and put 2 people in front of them. And I probably would have had the lethal options to be the sideways ones so that you're not firing directly at the house. And then I would have started telling everybody, get inside the house or get back, come away, whatever. I would try to probably have the guy in the back pull people out of the house through the back door so that if he does go back in the house, he's going into an empty house. And I would try and slow this down. But there's not always time to do that. I get it. I'm just saying, I'm thinking if I'm rolling to this call, these are my thoughts, right? This is how I'm planning out how I want to handle this situation.
Mm-hmm. And it seemed like there was a line of cars. When reading that press clipping, it seemed like, there was a line of cars. Now, there was a line of cars before the incident or after the incident? It doesn't really clarify, but if it was before, right where that cop is standing by that fire, near the those telephone poles or whatever those fucking poles are in the distance, you could have put a squad car right there, open his doors because the doors have ballistic panels, and now you can have two stable shooting platforms for your lethal, right? Like you were saying, from the side, and then you can take your non-lethal or less than lethal or whatever you want to call it, and you can kind of position that kind of in front of the door, but not right in front of the suspect. That way, he can't run straight towards you. He'll have to run at an angle towards you, so you have that good wedge, you have that good L shape, and then you can start trying to give commands and trying to control the scene, like you said, slow it down, try to pull those people away, because if you were to clip that female right there and she dies from a stray round, you're liable, because you're there and you're the one.
You're liable for every round that comes out of your gun.
Yeah, and so that can put you in some really fucking hot water. Now, everyone probably wants to know, okay, well, was it right for them to shoot him? Absolutely. I mean, you look at it.
He came at them with a knife.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. Like, he said, shoot me in the heart. He clearly had violent intentions. Let me tell you something. When somebody tells you to shoot them, that clearly displays, like, most people don't beg to be shot, right? So that clearly displays that they're not in their right mind. And they clearly have a mindset to do things that are unpredictable, because standing there on the porch, screaming and yelling with a knife, begging cops to shoot you in the heart is not typical, behavior.
It's not normal behavior.
Yeah.
And how many times we've been involved in that where we don't shoot the suspect, where it's just a cry for help, where they just want a fucking attention, and you give it to them and you're able to talk them down and they drop the weapon and you take them into custody without incident. It happens all the time. However, there is a 10% chance that you are going to, and this is my percentages. These are my statistics. Okay. These are not
made up statistics.
Yeah. These are made up statistics. Okay. From what I've seen. And there's that 10%
statistic.
Chuck statistics. Yeah. There's a 10% chance that it's going to go fucking south and you're going to get into a fucking nasty use of force that can lead to someone's death. Maybe even more than 10% if you're just talking about uses of force, because those happen a lot. But just leading to a shooting, there's like a 10% chance, like, it can go fucking sideways real quick, because they're already not in that right state of mind. And you already see him get tased once and he pulls the fucking darts out. Right. Now that tells you, okay, there's some other substance or some other chemicals in his brain working to where he's not feeling pain and he's able to rip that shit out. Because if you have a good connection, you can get neuromuscular incapacitation, which causes your whole body to lock and allows you not to have function of those body parts. Well, if he's able to override that in his brain and pull them fucking darts out, and then you go to do it again, and you're just like, oh fuck, and you do it again, let's hope this one works, and then he just starts swinging that fucking blade or dangerous object in his hand, and then he starts lunging towards the cops. He already displayed that the taser had no effect, and now you're trying it again, and now he's lunging towards you. So it's safe to assume a reasonable person with the same training and experience would be like, okay, he's lunging at me with this fucking knife because he wants to kill me now, because now he's pissed.
Right. He's immune to taser because we tried it twice. The first time he pulled him out. The second time he advanced. Right. Now, is it possible that they didn't get a good connection?
Possible,
sure.
Yeah.
Possible.
Absolutely.
But guess what that means? It was ineffective. So guess what they had? They had a backup taser. Whether it was they changed cartridges, which doesn't sound like that was so fast. It sounds like somebody else had a taser.
The second
But
taser.
they changed cartridges. They tased him again. So the first time he pulled the darts out, they go, okay, we didn't get a good wide enough spread, good enough contact, whatever. They tased him a second time. The point at which he now, is it possible that his arm movements with the knife and then stepping off the porch were due to involuntary muscle spasms from the taser? Yes. Does it look like that when you watch the video? No. Am I going to take that chance as a copper? Absolutely not. So, Can they shoot him? Yes. Did they put themselves in a position where they had to shoot him? I don't know. Because that's a what if. Like, you could literally what if that to death. It's impossible to know. Had they had better tactical positioning and a better plan, if that guy would have given up, because there are people that don't give up. So just because we criticize their tactics doesn't mean we think that they were wrong in what they did.
Right.
It just means that I would have chosen different tactics, but ultimately, if it worked and they're all safe, it worked and they're all safe. And was he good to go for a shooting with a knife in his hand from 12 feet away or whatever it is? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
if they riot in Miami, they riot. But ultimately, the guy survived, or at this point, he survived. So,
and I don't think they'll riot because it seems like the chief, Freddie Cruz over there,
pretty cool,
is backing his officers.
Yeah,
pretty decent. Like, he shouldn't have done it.
Right.
And if you have a city that's like that, your chances of rioting and getting fucking hurt are very high.
Yeah.
So, because they don't fuck around. If they're able to back their officers out in public like that with something that doesn't look good, and we say it doesn't look good because no shooting looks good. No use of force where you fuck someone up to the point where they have to go to the hospital looks good.
Right. Because it shouldn't look good. We shouldn't enjoy. I mean, there's a part of me that likes people watching shitty people getting their comeuppance. But it sucks when if we wish they wouldn't be shitty people that need to be dealt with like that. That's the big hard part for cops. So the next shooting with questionable decision making is out of Chicago, and this one's all over the news.
Yeah, this one.
And so let's just watch the video because yeah. So this is the body cam video with no commentary, and then we have a second video if we have time for it from PBS. So.
Door now! Open the door now!
So it goes down pretty quick. There. Open the door now.
He just bought his new car 3 days before that.
Oh,
And he was just riding around in his car. He said, Mom, I'm going for a ride. And they killed him. They killed him.
No.
Okay.
So the other video has way more to it. It has the approach.
Yeah.
And it has him actually getting out, him actually starting the vehicle, because you're like 96. It was 96 rounds shot by Chicago police officers. Well, 96 sounds like a lot, right? And it is a lot. Believe me, it's a shit ton. That's a bunch of officers firing their weapons. But in the next video you're about to see, you see him. He fires 2 rounds at the officers, actually strikes an officer, and then puts the car into drive and tries to drive out, and then bails from the car, and then they continue to shoot, and then he dies on the ground.
Okay, so here we go. This has got PBS commentary, I believe, but this is the
video itself doesn't. Afterwards, in the middle, it does.
Explosive news today with the release of a video program in the police district near the border of Humboldt Park and Garfield Park. It resulted in the shooting death of 26-year-old Dexter Reed. Just today, the Chicago Office of Police Accountability released the body camera footage from that shooting, where officers apparently fired 96 rounds. And in just a few minutes, we should note we will be hearing from the chief administrator of that agency.
Okay. So here's video.
This is the video from a residence nearby.
Cop on the right got shot.
But was that friendly fire?
The suspect shot out the window.
Okay.
I don't know if he got hit by a friendly fire or the other cop got hit, but someone got hit. Suspect did fire though.
I mean, so he's first of all, do we know why they stopped him? Because he's stopped by what looks like an unmarked. Oof, man. He's stopped by an unmarked.
Next, you'll see body camera footage from one of the 4 officers.
Okay, she says, "What are you doing?" There, she's talking over it. This is the important stuff to me.
Right.
So first of all,
I think it's
they have the car hemmed in. So this is not a normal traffic stop.
No, they're looking for someone. A lot of the times when my agency would roll unmarks that have lights like that, it's they're unmarked, but they're full police cars on the inside. They have full light bar, red and blue lights. Right. They have sirens, everything, cages in the back, so you can.
Yeah, they're a patrol car, just not painted black and white.
Right, they're normally silver, gray, white, something like that.
All black,
something for crime suppression in very dangerous neighborhoods.
At special enforcement teams.
Exactly. You know, crime
suppression
teams.
This looks like that's what they're doing because they have him stopped in a very non-standard way. They have, if you look at the cars, they pulled up next to him and then angled their car so that he couldn't get away.
Yep.
And then here, my first issue is, what the hell, dude? This is the most unsafe way to approach this guy if they think he's that dangerous. But maybe they don't think he's that dangerous. Maybe they have no idea, and they're just using poor tactics because that's what police in Illinois do sometimes. I don't know. So she rolled down the window. What are you doing?
Who opened fire?
Roll that one down too. Hey,
He's rolling the window back down.
Don't roll the window up. Do not roll the window up. Unlock the doors now. Unlock the doors now. Unlock the doors now. Open the door now. Open the door now.
Okay, so that's interesting right there, because
That's a big shout out to
that
Patrick.
first round is not the cops. Then you can hear the difference between the recording of a real high-pitched, tinny sounding gunshot that was fired from inside the car, and therefore the sound is not echoing. And you hear
Mhm.
and then you hear pop, pop, pop of the officers outside. So when you hear that higher pitched, tinnier sounding gunfire, that's the recording capturing the gun going off inside the car. So it sounds to me like he fires first.
Yep.
Now, if you look onto the passenger side, like you said, you can clearly see after the first pop, that guy drops, like reacts, like,
Like he got hit.
yep, right there. Boom. So now you have the cop, and they're all in plain clothes, by the way. They're wearing like jump out gear. Like this is like a narc team or a special enforcement. Like these are not just regular patrol cops. So
These are the guys that have to do like the surveillance and takedowns at the same time.
Yeah. So at this point, I don't know why they stopped this dude, but if he's not the right guy, why the hell does he have a gun and he opened fire?
Right.
Okay. So he opens fire. The cops start running. And they're shooting and they're moving around sideways, trying to get a better angle. Didn't the bystander get shot on this one?
I don't know. I don't think so. Doesn't look like there's anyone down the street.
It is the biggest red dot slide I've ever seen on my life. It's like an EOTech. Okay, so he gets out of the car. Now he's at the back of the car. And when he jumps out of the car, this cop whose body camera we have, he has the best angle.
Yeah.
Now he runs past the suspect to his homie.
Yeah, he's shot wrong.
Slide lock. That's interesting. It's so interesting to see people handling themselves. Okay, so now, Mom, I'm talking to you, Mom. Okay, I know that's your baby, and I know he was just out for a drive in his brand new car.
That has a fucking massive dent on the side.
Yeah.
It looks like he could have been involved in something.
Oh, and then he's got some damage on the right side too. So,
and we're not saying that's the reason why they stopped him because they saw damage on a vehicle and they stopped him. No, there's no other reasons why they stopped him.
That, you know, sometimes he's out for riding his brand new car with his gun, and sometimes your baby is involved in stuff you don't know, or maybe you do, and you just don't want to think about it. You're turning a blind eye to it. I don't know your relationship with him, and I don't care. That's your business. What I'm telling you, Mom, because I'm talking directly to you, is your baby opened fire on the police, and the police killed him. That's how it works. You don't get to say, why did this happen? How dare they? When he pulled the gun out and opened fire first.
Mm-hmm.
I have been pulled over while being a cop carrying a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never just randomly started opening fire on the police.
I got pulled over by one of those units.
Yeah, I have been pulled over. I know lots of people that have been pulled over. I've pulled over people with guns who've told me they've had guns. Yeah, I'm armed. I have a concealed carry permit, or I'm a cop, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. I've never. The one time that somebody's tried to shoot at me out of their car when I was in plain clothes, it was because he was trying to kill me because he was on a week-long crime spree. Right? Like, you don't get to complain that the cops killed your son when your son tried to kill the cops first.
Yeah.
If he had never opened fire and it was just a failure to comply, if he was just refusing to open the door and they dumped him, you might have an argument. Again,
Oh yeah, that is strip murder.
well, again, I don't know if they saw I don't know why it went sideways so quick. If they saw the gun in the car, but they were concerned about something because they went up there. They went up there at like condition orange. They were on alert, but they were not like her gun. The body cam cop was not full out ready to go when she approached the car. You don't see it until after he starts to roll the window back up and she tries to open the door. So there is there, yeah, and it's entirely possible they saw that.
Yeah.
If he starts to roll the window back up and he's inside the car, I'm probably going to retreat to cover behind my engine block, point my gun at him through the window, and start to call him out. That's probably what I'm going to do. But that's because my personal officer safety and tactics, I am not the kind of cop who gets so pissed off that the guy won't roll down the window. Or now, I don't know what other information they had. I'm just saying on a standard traffic stop or something like that,
Which it's not standard when you block a car in, because normally you're behind the vehicle. And
right. Like we said, this is not a standard traffic stop. I get it.
No.
Okay. But even in this situation, if I didn't see a gun, I might he's just rolling up the window and refusing to comply. And we've got him boxed in like this. I would probably position another unit behind him so he can't back out.
Yep.
And I'd have him pinned in. And then we would take positions of cover in an L shape and we would try to call him out.
Exactly.
At the point at which he opens fire, all bets are off. So I don't think I would have, again, me being me, I know myself. I've seen me do it. I typically don't go up and start to open the door handle, right? At that point, if you're that non-compliant, I'm not going to pull you out of the car. I'm going to point my gun at you and make you do orders, make you comply with my orders at gunpoint from a safe distance.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I was trained, right? It is, we're way past the days for officer safety where I'm going to say this one more time for the police officers listening. We are way past the days where you could reach in through the wind wing and open the door. If you don't know what a wind wing is, go get a manual transmission from the 80s. Wind wing was these little tiny windows that popped out.
Yeah.
Give you some fresh air in the car, these little triangular windows.
My Nova has one.
Reach in and unlock the door and yank the door open and pull the guy out of the car. And we used to say, yank him out by the wind wing, kind of a thing. We're past the days where it's safe to just reach in raw dog and yank people out of cars.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a good look. You have time, you have space.
That does bring up a good discussion, though, and it's an age-old discussion, and we've had it at my agency numerous times, where you pull over a vehicle, you're behind him, you walk up on the car, and you have a partner officer on the driver's side, partner officer on the passenger side. He grabs a gun. This is where the discussion comes in. Do you give up your ground, retreat back to your car, and get behind your ballistic panels, and then do the call out, or do you not give up your ground and stand your ground right there at the windows behind the B pillar and try to deal with it that way? Now, there's been cops who are like, well, I don't want to give up my ground. We're not going to fucking retreat. We're going to fucking handle it right here. If I give him more time, he can come out of the car and start shooting at me. I'm like, right. But if it's going to lead to his shooting anyways, this is where the other part of the discussion comes in. Wouldn't you rather be behind your door panels? And personally, I've done both. Where I've stayed my ground, didn't move, fucking got the guy out of the car, put him on the ground, handcuffed him. There's also been times where I've retreated because my partner saw something and was like, oh shit. And we went back behind our cars and we did the call out. We got more units there. We put out a felony stop and it went from there and we were able to do the call out, or it was a pursuit. So there's that whole thing. But I think getting behind newer age tactics, getting behind your ballistic panels, if it's going to lead to a shooting, you should probably want all the cover that you have, because there have been numerous times where the gangster or the criminal or the suspect has pulled a gun and shot through the driver's side door, striking the officer and seriously maiming that officer or killing that officer. It's too much, but it's happened way too many times. So why not just, if it's going to happen and it happens like in a split second, you don't have time, you didn't have fucking time. But if you have the time, get behind your vehicle, open up your ballistic panels on your doors and stand behind them. I think there should have been a police car behind his car so that you can't reverse out, because you just have one and it's all shitty, and there's fucking massive crossfire issue. One is really bad. You have the officer on the driver's side or the passenger side, and you have like four officers.
He's on the front passenger side. He's not even on the rear passenger window.
Right.
There's that issue. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're up at the window and something starts to go wonky, I'm telling you, I have screwed my gun in somebody's ear and given him a 45 caliber Q-tip and said, I see the gun. Don't move. If you move your hands anywhere but where I tell you to, I'm going to shoot you. Right? There are times when you don't have the time. Basically, you can handle the situation right where you're at, up close and personal, because to retreat because you see something means you're going to give that person time and space to get to it, and you're going to cause it to go sideways, or you're going to give them time to take it there. Whereas if you had taken forceful enough action, like put your hands on the steering wheel right now, I'm going to blow your brains out. Then if they move their hands anywhere else but the steering wheel, they're going to get got, right?
You know what sucks is that this is an SUV with tinted fucking windows too. So that guy on the driver's side is at a disadvantage because he is looking now up at the suspect. The suspect is now looking down at him, giving the suspect an advantage. The only person who has a great line of view is the one on the sidewalk on the opposite side, on the passenger side, looking through that front driver's side window to the side passenger window, or the front driver windshield, and then the passenger window. He has a better line of sight, and I think that's probably where the commands is. He's reaching for something. That's when the cop pulls his fucking gun out on the driver's side. Right. There are
a lot of windows are limo tent. Like when he rolls up those windows, he disappears. Right. Like you can see him clear as day when the window's down, but as soon as that window starts to go up, he disappears. Which, let me tell you, having a suspect like this and then having a barrier go up that means you can't see what they're doing, that's an officer safety issue. You have to deal with that.
Yeah, and then let's get into those rounds that were fired. Okay, so the suspect fires 2 rounds, or approximately 2 rounds at the police officer. At first, then they return fire, and then they keep shooting at the vehicle because they still see the suspect in the vehicle moving around with a fucking firearm. And then he drives forward, crashes into the vehicle, and they continue to still fire. At that point, there is a little bit of a lull. There could have been a ceasefire. Hey, ceasefire, let's regroup. Let's fucking figure out where we're at. And then the suspect gets out, and then fucking volley 2 happens. But they just continue to shoot, and then the suspect gets out. It's unknown if he's armed at that point, but then he gets dumped right then and there. There are a few rounds that get shot while the suspect is still on the ground, and that's from the officer who's trying to get over to his partner who was just shot. So you could argue the fact that those rounds are going to be out of policy because he was already.
Well, we don't know their policy,
but we don't know their policy, and we're just trying to like speculate. But at the end of the day, it comes down to this plain and simple fact: the suspect fired a weapon, multiple rounds at officers. Officers returned fire and neutralized the threat.
And with as many, so 91 rounds or something like 94 rounds, 96 rounds, 96 rounds by the cops.
Yeah.
If you take 96 rounds, and there was probably 6 cops there, 5.
Yeah.
What are we saying? Well, should we say 5? Let's say 5. Let's call.
Okay,
5.
let's go 5.
Let's say there's 5. Partners. So let's just round it up to a nice even 6.
Yeah.
So 96 divided by 6 is 16. And if they're Glocks, that's basically mag dumping per cop, right?
Yeah.
So if there was only one cop there, one mag dump, 16 rounds. mag dumps by all 6 cops, 96 rounds. It's not one cop firing 96 rounds into the person. So I wish people would understand, like, simultaneous fire. You know, when 2 cops are firing, 3 cops are firing at the same time. If 3 cops fire and do a mag dump, then you got 48 rounds right there.
And contagious fire is a real fucking thing.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, we tell you, you know, try not to have contagious fire, like keep your wits about you. This is what gets some cops into trouble is you have contagious fire, but you didn't see anything, right? You weren't in danger. You didn't perceive the danger. Your partner perceived the danger. They fired, and you fired because they fired, which is not acceptable, right? It happens, but we have to try and guard against that. That's one of the. It's the same thing. Contempt of cop, like beating somebody's ass for giving you an attitude. Right. It's understandable and it happens, but you have to guard against that because it's not what we want to do. So, I mean, every time I hear people talk about the amount of rounds, I go, okay. Like, what do you there? Yeah. That was a sustained gunfight. That was not strictly speaking a typical OIS like the other one. You know, 5 cops, 1 knife, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, he's down. Right. That was, he's in the car. Where is he? Pop, pop, pop. Guy's hit. How do I get to him? You know, I'm trying to get an angle on him. He's still moving around the car. Pop, 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 pop. And every cop has got a different angle. Every cop's seeing a different thing. Mm-hmm. So everybody's trying to get him
from. And we're looking at it from one angle.
Yeah.
There's 6 different angles there that are perceiving 6 different fucking things. Right. And they're seeing 6 different things. You still see him moving around. He's already fired at police once, striking an officer because you saw him go down. So you're like, fuck, he just killed my partner. Holy shit. And so you see him moving around. He's still a threat and you're still firing and you're still engaged in this active fight. It's kind of silly to say, oh, well, you just fucking unloaded 96 rounds. Well, there's 6 people there and the suspect just fired at us. And it's safe to assume that someone with a reasonable training and experience or a reasonable person would think that if you already shot and killed one person, because at that time you see the officer go down, you don't know what the fuck just happened. So your brain probably perceives maybe he's dead or he just sustained a serious gunshot wound. The likelihood of that happening again is very high, especially if he's still moving around. He could be trying to gain a different area of or a different angle to shoot at you, to shoot at the other cops. So they're still firing. The only issue that I see is when the suspect got out, and because it didn't look good. But if he's still armed and he's still trying to maneuver that weapon, you're still good to go. It is what it is,
and we can't tell. We weren't there.
No, and I don't think the cops did a bad job. Do I think their tactics were a little fucked up going up to it? Mm-hmm. I do. Right.
Now this next one's going to have some interesting questions about it, and we have an email. So are we doing the video or the email first? What are we doing?
I can read that email real quick.
So this one is now this is interesting because this is police from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah,
getting into an officer-involved shooting in an incident of law enforcement in Covington, Kentucky. Yeah. Now, before you say anything there, dear listener, I went, wait a minute, because living in California is a huge state. People don't quite understand. If you were to slide California to the right on a map of the United States, California goes from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico, right around Illinois. Right.
Yeah, it's massive.
California is huge, and it skews sometimes a Californian's idea of how big their state is, right? Like a 6-hour drive from LA to San Francisco is a drive across 3 states in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So here is
Tennessee, and I could go to 3 different states.
Right. So here is just for those of you that don't are seeing this. This is, I looked it up. This is I typed in Cincinnati, Ohio to Covington, Kentucky into Google Maps. Okay. So now I don't know where the police station is and I don't know where the call is. I just typed in city to city. So it gave me a central point to a central point, or a one point A to point B. Here is what Google Maps gave me. 7 minutes by car across a bridge from Cincinnati, Ohio to Covington, Kentucky. So for those of you who live over there and know how close it is, great. For the rest of us, geography illiterate people who didn't know how close Cincinnati, Ohio was to Covington, Kentucky, this
to drive over a river.
This distance over the river is closer than driving from one division in Los Angeles to another, right?
Yeah.
Like this is right over the border. So let's keep that in mind when we're talking about Ohio police in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about 10 minutes in a car.
Right.
Okay.
Normally, like these are different towns in states you live in, like town to town, right?
And I'm going to tell you right now, we live 30 minutes from Spokane, Washington.
Yeah.
And the crime and the criminals that come here from there and go there from here, and like, it's a real thing. Okay. Yeah. When you live this close to but that's in another state.
And you're near a different country too.
We'll get into that in a minute. So what's the email?
So he goes, "Hey all, been listening for a while. Got a breakdown suggestion that is a mess. Cincinnati cops came to Covington, Kentucky to do a field interview. Mom of a murder suspect. Murder suspect runs out to get away with the gun in hand. Cincinnati cops end up shooting him. Pretty straightforward until you find out the Cincinnati cops may have not gotten notice from Kentucky police for them being there. And no one was on a federal task force, no mutual aid agreement or anything. Also, KSP, which is, I don't know what that is, Kentucky
State Police.
Okay, Kentucky State Police is investigating the case, and Cincinnati released the body worn against the request of Kentucky Commonwealth Attorney and Kentucky State Police. Still not resolved from my understanding. And then he sent us the two clips. Thanks for a good listen, a fan.
Yeah. So here's our first one. We'll just watch this and then we'll go from there because there's a lot to unpack. We got state lines, we got all kinds of stuff. So here we go.
It's muted. Uh-oh.
Five?
I can't hear the sound.
You can't hear the sound?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I didn't know you can't hear the sound. Let me see if I can fix that. I don't know why.
It was like all garbled, and then I just cut.
Weird. Okay. So
if we can't hear you, might just have to do play-by-play.
Yeah, well, I'll do this. I'll do this other one. Because you sent me two clips, right?
Yeah.
So should I try the other clip?
You can. I don't know if it's a video. I think it might just be something from Kentucky.
Oh, let's see then. All right, here we go.
The other one was from Ohio.
Let's try this one. I'll share it from the news clipping on the website. Because for some reason that little video wasn't sharing audio. So here we go. Let's go back.
Can you turn up the volume more?
I'm trying here. Trying to get to. No, that's not the one I want. Okay. Here we go. All right, we're back. Can you hear that? Hear it?
Nah. You hear a little bit and then it just cuts out.
Okay, so this is. Oh yeah, right. He comes around the corner, and he's got what looks to me like a gun in his hand, and they're in the back. 2 of 5 Cincinnati officers had a supervisor who showed up at his mother's house, and they were part of a fugitive task force. So I'm telling you what she's saying. They're searching for the suspect in connection to a woman's murder earlier the month. Then you hear an officer in the backyard. Let me see your hands. Top of the front arms. Boom. The suspect goes over the fence.
Oh, it's a revolver.
Okay. So you guys see the video if you're watching this on YouTube. We'll tell you. So I kind of narrated it. Suspect comes back around. So they're five cops. Five cops are there, which is interesting. They sent 5 cops to FI the mom. That tells me that they possibly had reason to believe that the suspect might live there or be there. Yeah. They went there to FI the mom because they didn't know if, and for those of you who don't know what FI means, field interview. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they went to go chat the mom, get her horsepower, find out where the kid's at. It's the stuff you see in all kinds of cop shows and detective shows when they, hi, police department. Yeah. Hey, I'm so-and-so. Are you so-and-so's mom? Yeah. Does he live here? No. Do you know where he stays? I'm not telling you that. Okay. What's your name? My name's this. My date of birth is this. You know, yep. This is my phone number. Okay. Here's my card. If he's not here, we need to talk to him. Do you know where he was the other day? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Have him call me. Right?
Yeah.
And then maybe you put the house under surveillance because you think she's lying or whatever. But it's the beginning stages of an investigation to field interview family members when you're looking for a suspect. Mm-hmm. If you don't know what we're talking about, go watch the first 48. It's a really good look at how homicide investigations work. And how
I might even have a FI card around here to give people an idea.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, imagine just a little 3x5 card that has little boxes where you write height, weight, hair, eye color, sex,
descriptions. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Major descriptors.
What did they? Yeah. So they do this field interview. Suspect is home and he bails out the back. Well, these cops aren't stupid. They put people on the back. Mm-hmm. I don't know why the cop couldn't go over the fence after him, but that's a rickety ass dangerous fence, and I wouldn't want to go over it either. Maybe he said, "I don't need to go over this fence. I'm just going to go back around the other direction because I see him coming out the front." I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the suspect does come out the front, and the suspect comes out the front with a gun in his hand. So let's do the math, boys and girls.
And that's where they dumped him because I couldn't hear sounds.
Yes. So they dump him in the front yard with a gun in his hand.
Right. When he pulls it out like this, and they just
yeah. He's got it, kind of like this, and it, that typical sideways, flat up against the body, right at the waistband level, and you can see it clear as day. And they drop it, bang, 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 or get down on the ground. They see the gun, then they fire. They don't wait because he's moving with the gun in his hand. They don't even bother to give him other commands. He's a homicide suspect with a gun, moving. And not giving, he's already fleeing. He's already trying to get away.
Violent escape of fleeing,
and he's got a gun. Yeah. So he's not just a violent fleeing felon. Violent fleeing felon. He is a violent fleeing felon who is armed. Okay, yep. They shoot him. Okay, I don't have any problems with that. The other part of the story is the Kentucky or the Cincinnati police were apparently in Kentucky without telling Kentucky, police in Covington, Kentucky. I don't know if that's common practice over there, but common practice for us was if you're plainclothes or uniformed and you're going into another jurisdiction to conduct enforcement action or to conduct investigation, you contact the local authorities, whether it's the local police station that governs that jurisdiction or the local sheriff's station that covers that jurisdiction. And you tell them, hey, we're going to have people out at blah, 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 blah. And then sometimes they'll go, hey, do you want another unit? And oh, yeah, sure. That would be great. And then Okay.
Yep.
This is not just a different city. This is a different state. Now,
Didn't you say they were working a federal task force?
No, they were working a fugitive task force, or not even fugitive task force, like a fugitive team, right? So this could have been just a team within their own agency.
Got it.
Now we'll get into our emailer said things about federal task force. We'll get into that. I was on a task force. I was on a multi-jurisdictional task force. We went all over the state of California. But here's the interesting thing about California. Number one, in California, when you are sworn in as a police officer, peace officer, because there are different kinds of peace officers. There are sheriff's deputies, police officers, blah, blah, blah. When you are sworn in as a peace officer, you are given a classification under what section of the penal code you are a peace officer. Most of them under the same section. That means you are a peace officer in the entire state of California, right? You are recognized as licensed and trained as a peace officer in the state of California. Your jurisdiction, where you regularly enforce the law, is that city or county in which you were hired. I'll give you, and they want to make sure your enforcement powers are part of that. And I'll give you a perfect example. There's a school police department or many school police departments, and their jurisdiction is at school campuses and or within 1 mile of any school.
Mm-hmm.
So their patrol cars can conduct enforcement action within 1 mile of any school on public property. They see a crime. If somebody's robbing a liquor store across the street from a middle school, they're good to go. If they're robbing a liquor store within 1 mile of a school, they're good to go. That's their jurisdiction. Now, if you're out in an industrial area where there are no schools, they're going to wonder why the hell you're over there doing enforcement action, right? Because you're a police officer for the school district. Okay, so we get jurisdiction. Everybody understands the concept of jurisdiction. This is a concept of police powers. In California, when you're a new chief or a new sheriff, usually a teletype is sent out to every police agency statewide. Says, hey, I'm the new chief of police at such and such of a police department. I am announcing my takeover and my leadership of this department, and I am welcoming formally through this teletype any duly authorized peace officer in the state of California to conduct enforcement action within my city. So what you're essentially doing is you're giving a blank check to other cops in the state. If they're in your jurisdiction and they see something, they can do something about it. Mm-hmm. And it protects you and it protects them. And it's easy. I moved to another state. Like you guys know, I'm in Idaho. I was shocked to learn that police officers in Idaho are only police officers within the city where they reside.
Yep.
And have no police powers in another jurisdiction unless that jurisdiction formally grants them those powers. And they don't put out those blanket emails.
Yeah. Right?
So when you go from city A to city B, you're a civilian. You're not a cop. You're only a cop where you're a cop. Okay. So I don't know what I'm saying this because I don't know what Kentucky and Ohio's laws are.
Yeah, who knows?
You're going to go into Kentucky as a cop and you're going to take a whole team to look for a murder suspect. It's probably a good idea to tell Covington, Kentucky that you're coming.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely should let them know. I mean, my agency has a fugitive task force and they fly all over the country and sometimes pick up people and, try to get them into different countries and stuff like that. But they have, U.S. Marshals that work with them too on their teams. And so their job. Right. That's and their department job. Team, has a marshal assigned to them, just like we have some other units in our agency that have FBI agents attached to them because they're major enforcement details with gang. They're gang task force.
My unit had ATF, Secret Service, and DEA that were attached to us. Now they weren't with us every day, right? But here's the other thing: you have to be deputized federally to enforce federal law, right? So there's all these other jurisdictional issues that basically, if you're gonna go into another jurisdiction, especially one across state lines, let them know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just let them know.
If you get into hot water, like you kill someone, you're fucked. And like you can be held liable with your city and your state, and that other state could possibly come after you. It just opens you up to a bunch of liability that you don't want to open yourself up to. And I know that from personally working in a large area, that we would get constantly people calling in, hey, we're going to be doing operations in this area. Hey, where's the location? Hey, you tell the watch commander, hey, they're going to be in our area from this time to this time. And this is their callback number in case she goes sideways. Here's our inside line number, yada, yada, yada. Sometimes
private investigators have to do it. Repo men have to do it. Anybody that's going to be doing shit in your city, they have to make notification. Well, there's laws that state that private investigators and repo men have to check in and notify the agency, and that's for safety, right? Like there's Texas guys who are repoing a car and they get shot and killed because lethal force is authorized under Texas horse thieving laws, in which case that means that in Texas you can guard property with deadly force, whereas in California you cannot guard property with deadly force. You can only guard life with deadly force. So
I've had the instance though where I've had marshals come in to our area, not last fucking know that they're there, and next thing you know, they're calling for a help call, and then they have deputies and shit with them, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And then you get there, and it's a freaking officer involved shooting, it's a federal involved shooting. You're like, oh my god, this is a fucking mess. And that's what we're talking about, that it opens yourself up and your agency up to all these different liabilities, and you don't want to do that. And who knows? Maybe they tried, they didn't get an answer, and they said, fuck it, it's hot now. We know the suspect's possibly there. We're gonna go FI the mom. And maybe that was their guise under the whole thing, is if we just say we're there to FI the mom and he just so happens to be there and something happens, hey, we're there.
What? Cops would never use loopholes.
That place was set the fuck up. They had back.
Okay, so that may work in your city. That may work in your own city. Great. That may fly in your own city. That may even fly in your own state. But dude, I'm going to give you one of the best, most simplest pieces of advice an older cop supervisor gave me. Don't turn a good shooting into a bad one by being out of policy.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Don't turn a good. Now, I'm going to tell you, we're almost done. So I had a friend who carried a switchblade. And I had a friend, he carried a switchblade in his pocket, and I had a friend who carried a double-edged boot knife dagger, like a Gerber Special Forces dagger, in his boot. Okay. They carry in uniform on duty. And the thing that I looked at both of them and said is, I said, we can carry a lot of things that civilians can't, and we're exempt from the law. Mm-hmm. But switchblades and boot knife daggers, double-edged boot knife daggers, fixed blade, special forces daggers in your boot, concealed, are not two of them. There is no provision in the law that allows a cop to carry a dirk or dagger, which is, a concealed dirk or dagger in California is a felony, and a switchblade is a misdemeanor. Mm-hmm. Okay. Any spring-loaded, button activated knife with a blade of over 2 inches is illegal. Right? You can't carry it in public, period, whether it's concealed or not. So if you're a cop and you're carrying those things and you ultimately have to use your knife in a fight for deadly force, like a ground fight or something like that, you've basically used an illegal weapon in a legal use of force, and you've put yourself outside of policy, and you've created a situation where the department, if they don't want to, does not have to indemnify you. Yep. And if you don't think that the headline for that isn't going to be police officer fatally stabs innocent black kid or Mexican kid or whatever the race is, as long as it's not white, they're going to tell you the race. If it's white, they're not going to tell you the race. But if it's any other race than white, they're going to tell you what race they are. With illegal knife, that's what they're going to say. Illegal knife. They're not
throwing murdered.
Yeah,
murdered,
whatever. So just don't do it. It's easy. You can carry all kinds of shit. Don't turn a good use of force into a bad use of force by violating policy.
Yeah, and if honestly, like, you might get out of that if you do, and you're like, well, I'd rather be, fucking
tried by 12 than carried by 6. I get it.
6, and
but you're still going to lose your job.
right, you might not get indicted, but you're going to sure as shit not be able to provide for your family because your agency is going to drop you like a hot fucking potato.
And then the civil suit's going to come in, and you're not going to be indemnified in court, and they're going to take your house.
Yeah, we're going to take everything,
don't
man.
do it. Don't
better
do
to
it.
protect yourself.
Yeah. So, well, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Questionable.
I think the shooting was good.
Mm-hmm.
I do, but not notifying if that's truly what they didn't do. And now they're in some hot water, so who knows? But it's going to be probably civilly and a lot of liability open there to the officers. But it's good. I think all the stuff we had today was pretty interesting. And
as we close, I will say that our theme today, if you look at the through line in all of these shootings, the shooting itself was justified, but was everything else leading up to the shooting good tactics and judgment? Mm-hmm. So you can be justified in your shooting, but there's an old adage that I used to tell all my trainees. I was not the one to say this first, but I will say it as long as I need to. Never let a positive outcome justify poor tactics and bad planning. Mm-hmm. Okay. Don't be the cop who goes, but it worked. Yeah, but you didn't know it was, but it worked. It worked. So obviously it was a good idea. No, it was a terrible idea and your ass got lucky.
Yeah.
Don't look back at your actions and go, we won. And it was awesome. And say, oh, well, clearly we're good to go because we won. No. Mm-hmm. Have good tactics, use good judgment, and protect yourself from the incidents where it is going to go bad. Because if it does go bad and you did use bad tactics and poor judgment, I'm going to tell you right now, your department is not. One of these days we'll discuss Rodney King, I'm sure. We discussed it a little bit with my dad because he investigated it. And I'm going to tell you right now, that case is not as black and white as you might think. And there were a lot of things that went into why it went down the way it did that come down to training and tools that the officers were not provided. Yeah. So, and I'm not saying that they were right. I'm just saying they were put in a bad spot.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
By their own agency.
That led to a lot of training to come down the pipe after that. It was a lot.
Yep. Because that was what my dad was part of that internal affairs investigation. And the ultimate thing they recommended to the department was it was a training issue.
Yeah. So. And to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, if you see your partner doing some shit that you're like, what the fuck? He's like, but it worked. Have the balls and the gall to call them out and to do a debrief after with all the other people who were present and call out all the mistakes that were made and then say, this is what was done right, but these were all the mistakes that you saw. And it allows you guys to critically debrief incidents and so that people don't do that shit again. And it protects yourself and the rest of your partners from making the same mistake over and over and over again. Because if they got away with it once and they're like, but it worked, they're going to try that dumb shit again. So have the balls to come out and say that shit when it happens. If you see it, say something. And that's the hardest thing to do for partners and stuff like that. But debriefs are super important. Don't wait until after the fact when you're having to sit back in your chair watching the fucking indictment roll down. And then you're like, well, he couldn't have done this. And you couldn't have done that. No, you try to do it beforehand so that it gets them thinking and it helps you as well. But I guess as we get ready to close out, I just want to say thank you everyone for listening to today's podcast. If you like the content we provide, please help us out by rating or reviewing us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever platform you listen to us on. We're also on YouTube as well. You can go and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Our Instagram is @war_stories_official and our Facebook @war_stories_podcast. We have a link in the bio right there that can get you to all of our socials or media, our website, which is www.warstoriesofficial.com, where you can grab some gear. And it can also get you links to the mailbag if you have a question for Tom, or if you want to be featured on the show, it has also a link to the booking.warstories@gmail email. Again, that is booking.warstories@gmail.com. I can get you booked. We're always looking for law enforcement, firefighters, medics, but also as corrections, dispatchers, and nurses. If you have a friend who you think would be a great fit for us, let them know about us and give them that booking email. If you forget that booking email, give them the Instagram or the Facebook and say, hey, click the link, go to the booking email. It's right there. Let them know about us, and I can get them booked or I can talk to them. Thank you for the support. Stay safe.
And until our next episode, come home with your shield or on it.